Hello again, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program Career 1.2. In the last episode, we milked a lot of science, and if we were to look in the Research and Development building and clicking on the Science Archives, we can look at Kerbal and see exactly how much science we were able to do with just 3 or 4 short missions. 15 science reports found out of a total of 15. So we're doing pretty well there. We need, it looks like, atmospheric pressure from the launch pad. We also need a temperature scan, or this is the science that's left. We can look at the reports here and show that we've gotten the science, 25 science remaining, and we're not going to go for these 2 contracts just yet. There's actually something else that we would like to do, and that is to go over to the space plane hangar here, and there is more science to be had from the runway. So what we actually want to do is place down a command pod, and instead of a pilot, we want to put in a scientist. We want to put in Bob. And in the words of Dave Chappelle, get in there, scientist. What Bob will be able to do is reset our experiments. Our goo canister and our brand new Science Junior will be able to be reset thanks to the power of our scientists. So what we need to do, we don't need any parachutes, we're not taking off, but we are putting on all of these scientific parts. So let's put on our barometer up here. Let's put our thermometer on this other side. And let's put the goo canister right on the nose. What this will allow us to do is actually rotate this spacecraft from the runway down to the grass and be able to pick all of that up. So when we launch, we are going to appear on our side, which is absolutely fine. We can do the standard fare of our science rotation. We can right-click, grab a crew report, 3 more science from the runway, we'll keep that. We can right-click and log the pressure data, 7 more science from the runway. We can open up the goo canister and get 6 more science from the runway there. We can do a temperature scan, 4 more science there. Then we can EVA, right-click, do an EVA report, get 4 more science there. Let's keep that. Let's take data and store all experiments, and then we'll board and open up our Science Junior. We'll observe our materials bay and 15 science from the runway here. So what we're going to do now is we will go on EVA, we will right-click on the materials bay, we will collect that data and remove it, place it in the pod, store the experiment, and then we can right-click and restore the experiment thanks to the scientist. So Bob has done such things as these. Oh, and we also need to do that for the goo canister. Might as well. We'll take the data from the goo canister, remove it, store it, and then restore the goo canister back to new. All right, let's rotate off the runway as best we can. It'll take a minute to work its way down. The runway is sort of on a hill here, and we're sort of off balance just a touch, so we will use our electric charge to finagle this thing off the runway as best we can without destroying our science experiments. Just using Q and E to rotate the craft, and I'm using the A and D keys to sort of spin us around. There's enough torque in this capsule to do that. And once we are clear of the runway, we'll get to this little grassy knoll over here, and we'll make sure we're off the runway by clicking on the experiment, observing the bay. Nope, we are still on the runway. Reset the experiment. Let's keep on rolling away from the runway. There we go. There's the hill that we're trying to go down. It's a little slow process, but we'll be able to get all of our science and be able to sort of cheat our way into more parts here. As long as we have electric charge, we are able to flop around like a fish. Just minor rolling, and then once we get the momentum going down the hill, hopefully Bob will do what he is told. Let's roll on down the hill here with Bob. Just using D to sort of spin this guy around. It probably would have been better to put another command capsule on to weight this thing correctly. But, you know, saving money. Living well and all that good stuff. Alright, once we get to this, this light grass over here, we'll actually be in another biome and we'll be able to do more reports. So let's see if this is good enough. We'll right click on the materials bay. And we are in fact from Kerbal Space Center, another 15 science. We'll keep that. We will log the temperature. Whoops. Oh, we need to take that. All right, no worries. We'll collect the data there, remove the data, take the data from the thermometer, take the data from the barometer, and store all of those experiments. Hop back on, and now we're ready for a temperature check. Right click, log the temperature. 4.8 more science from a temperature scan. Right click the mystery goo. Do we have any extra? 6 more science from it. The barometer. Log the pressure data from here. 7 more science. Keep that one. EVA and EVA report there. So no science there. Since we upgraded our astronaut complex, I wonder if we're able to take a soil sample. Might be worth checking out. I mean, we can see. Bob's going to hop on down. We'll right click on him, see if we can take a... Okay, so no soil sample there. No worries. Just checking to see. There we go. We'll grab on. We will board the craft, and then we will recover. And just by starting on the runway and rolling down the hill just a touch, we have got 73 science from just that mission there. 98 total science. We get 98% of our parts back. We got 4,000 funds back, and 1 XP gain for Bob because he successfully survived. Pretty cool indeed. Let's go into our R&D and see what points are unlocked for us. Now these are 90. Do we want solar panels? Miniaturization, hitchhiker containers, those aren't really important. Okay, so we need to unlock this branch. We can get 2 of these. The Terrier engine will be pivotal in getting out to Minmus and doing all of that good stuff. And so is that fuel tank. I think we want that one. And then that will open up fuel systems. Once we get 90 more science, we can get those fuel lines and these bigger tanks, which will allow us to do some interesting things. General construction, some struts might not be bad. Stability enhancers, probably the struts. For the Kerbal observations, a space plane might not be bad if we wanted to do that. And we've got some winglets, fins, and a reaction wheel. Curiouser and curiouser. I think we want to go with general construction for the struts, just in case we build a rocket that isn't exactly up to par. And now we have these 2 contracts still to fulfill. Haul a radial parachute into flight and test the parachute in flight over Kerbal. So let's go ahead and build a craft that can fit those requirements. Let's take the command pod, and since Jebediah has a little bit of experience, we will let Valentina gain some experience here. First thing we want to do is grab the Mark 16 parachute, because remember, we need to test that between 9,000 and 12,000 meters, moving at between 190 and 250 meters per second. We also have the goal to orbit Kerbal and escape the atmosphere. We are going to try to do that today. We also need to haul the radial mounted parachutes up to orbit, so we will do that. And we will try to modulate our speed to match this here between 5,000 and 10,000, 80 to 190. That should be fairly doable. Our next stage, I don't think we need to worry about a heat shield because we're not going to be in the atmosphere for long. So what we are going to do is we are going to get a decoupler here, the stack decoupler, and let us try to get into orbit. So let's do one small fuel tank with our brand new Terrier engine. And then we're going to put on another stage here. And we are going to load this thing up like so, and put a swivel on it perhaps. That way we can steer the rocket better. And we also have some of these decouplers that I'd like to try. Some winglets might not be bad. Let's put 4 of them on the base of our rocket for stability reasons. We do have these radial decouplers. Now we don't have fuel lines, so maybe some solid rocket boosters will help. But do we want to waste the money on solid rocket boosters? Maybe, maybe not. Let's just be conservative here and attach these 4 fuel tanks. And then we'll attach another set of fuel tanks to the base of that. And instead of the swivel, we will get the more efficient Reliant engines on the bottom. So these will fire, then they'll decouple, and then we'll have our main stage. You know what? I am thinking here, if we do all of them and throttle this guy back to, say, half thrust, we can still get the gimbling effect of this engine, but allow these to use more fuel, and these should burn out before the rest of our rocket. We will put on some aerodynamic nose cones, and now let's science it up. You know what? Matter of fact, let's pull off this stage here and grab a Science Junior. And then on that Science Junior, we will be able to put our barometer. Just one, please. Our barometer, our thermometer. It's a little off balance, but no worries. And our mystery goo. Now, my goal is to get scientific data from outside the atmosphere with this. We can EVA, we can crew report, we can do a lot of cool stuff once we exit the atmosphere and get a lot of good science. I think this will work for us. Electric charge required but not generated. That's a good point though. Unused monopropellant. We don't have any RCS thrusters, so let's just save a few dollars here and save some weight for a monopropellant. We don't need it. And let's fly this thing. Oh. Okay, so we ran into an issue where we have too many parts. If we try to launch, it says the VAB can't support it. So we'll just save this here as launcher. No worries, we'll save. And then we will leave the building, upgrade the VAB with the funds that we have. 112,000, but 255 parts. So now we have an upgraded VAB, and when we go to the launch pad and we look up our launcher, well, it's actually our auto-saved ship, we can put Valentina in charge and then fly it. All right, so everything should be set up. SAS on. We are 25% throttle or so, and now it's just getting up to the atmosphere here. Let's keep this open. That way we can adjust our speed, so we know we are good with those radial parachutes. Here we go. A nice easy launch. We want to be between 5,000 and 10,000 meters at 80 to 190 meters a second. That's going to really put a damper on us. All right, we are pitching over pretty bad. Let's turn the thrust limiter up so we can keep that balanced. We just have a sheer amount of force that's pulling us over. All right, let's slow down a bit. Yeah, we are definitely going more sideways than not. So let's chalk this up as a failed launch, let's say. Perhaps we got a little bit too overzealous with the side. If we go back to vehicle assembly, let's just pull off some of these side engines so we're not so heavy on the bottom. Let's just pull this guy off, and go 2 times symmetry over here, and then grab this guy and get 2 times symmetry here. And that's a little bit more doable. We are saving a little bit more money as well. So let's launch again. No worse for the wear. This is why I sort of do an easy mode. If this is a hardcore playthrough, you know, it's never restart, never surrender. But, you know, I'm here to have fun. And that's what Kerbal Space Program is actually all about. Alright, so I think we will be moving too slow for the parachutes to count until we're coming back down. So I will keep that in mind. This is a much more approachable launch. It's not pitching over as bad. We still have good control authority, and we're still picking up quite a bit of speed. These will definitely burn out before the main engine will, which is what we are after. Let's actually boost up the thrust just a little bit so our thrust vector don't drop too quickly. We can go out to the map and see how we are doing. Because we upgraded our tracking station, we can actually put maneuver nodes, and that's very important. All right, let's throttle down. We don't need all of this excess force to punch through. All right, so now once we are clear of this thick part, we can speed up some more. And then we don't have to be on the 90. We're not going to the moon with this. There's really no need for that. All right, before we separate, we will go full throttle here. Get her pointed in the right direction. Launch those, and we are off. Goodbye, fuel tanks. We still have a positive climb. Everything is coming up Millhouse. And what we want to do is get out of the atmosphere with this particular section and use that Terrier engine to push us forward in the vacuum. So that is our ultimate goal. Let's keep following our thrust vector down. If you saw my tutorial series, you would notice that a bunch of these buttons are missing. That's because Valentina isn't a 5-star pilot. She can just sort of hold the rocket at a specific attitude, but not go to maneuver nodes and all that good stuff. All right, so let me just cut this throttle here and save some of that that juice. Let's go out to our apoapsis here, add a maneuver, circularize our orbit, just as we did in our sandbox tutorial, which will be a 1-minute burn, and the Terrier isn't as effective as the swivel engine is, so we'll have to sort of count for that. How's our electric charge doing? 49% electric charge. This engine will charge the battery. It sort of does have an alternator on it. Once we hit above 70,000, I'll go ahead and kick on this engine. That way it's technically in a vacuum and a little bit more efficient, which will be great for us. 4, 3, 2, 1. Vacuum, we escape the atmosphere, and now we are hauling the mail laterally. We'll be able to separate and use this Terrier engine completely in a vacuum to circularize our orbit and get home. So full speed here. We're just this little rocket with our science experiments, and once we achieve an orbit, we will actually get some of these world firsts here. We escaped the atmosphere and got 41,000 bucks. We achieved our goal to escape for another $64,000 and more world first missions. So we're definitely making a name for ourselves, and we have plenty of fuel left. If we wanted to, we could try to do a flyby of Minmus with the barometer, the thermometer, a crew report. I mean, we have enough fuel. That is not an issue, and I think that's something that I would actually like to try to do this episode. I mean, since we can, I mean, why not? Let's come back a hero. Our first time to orbit, we visit another body. There we go, we are in orbit. 2 meters a second difference isn't going to hurt anyone. Let's check our map to make sure we're not falling back down. A 98 by 58. So we are falling down just a little bit. Let's raise up our apoapsis just a touch so we can securely be in orbit. That's only going to be a 1 second burn. Let's warp to the next maneuver as per usual. Our stability control is off because we don't want to be burning battery. We don't have our solar panels yet. But once we get right here on this maneuver node, we will accelerate time to here. And we will wait for our burn to come right here. And SAS on, burn and cut. How did that do us? We are in orbit, 100,000 by 98. A nearly circular orbit this time around. Awesome. For the ease of the video, I will wait until we're on the light side to do our science. And a momentous day, we have more world firsts here. We have entered orbit for another $48,000. We have orbited Kerbal for another $62,000, 12 science. We got another $96,000 for orbiting. Pretty awesome stuff. So let's get to it. Let's start with our temperature scan. Log the temperature in space near Kerbal. So there is space near Kerbal and space far away from Kerbal. Each one is a different biome. We will keep that experiment. We will observe the mystery goo and keep that mystery goo. We will go to our barometer and log the data. Keep that experiment. We will open up our goo or our materials bay here. And 50 science, we will keep that. We will right click and crew report, another 10 science. Keep that experiment. Let's rotate the craft a bit to face the sun. Stability. And we can EVA and do an EVA report. Another 16 science. So now that we're on the outside of this craft, we will take all of our science, we'll collect the data, remove the data. We can take the thermometer data. Can we take the mystery goo data? No, we cannot. Can we take the barometer data? We can. And as Valentina, let's go ahead and fly around and get the goo canister. Let's time accelerate to get the rocket back under control. EVA. And using our RCS thrusters, Valentina will fly around the spacecraft. We will park right next to our mystery goo canister and collect that data. Because if you do not collect the data and that mystery goo canister is destroyed on re-entry, you lose the science. So if you store it in your pod, if you come back home, the science comes back home, which is pretty cool. Let's go, let's grab and board. So now all of our experiments should be stored. Let's go into space high above Kerbal. I don't know if we will be able to encounter 10 degrees off from the moon, 7 degrees off from Minmus. If we were able to somehow get out here and catch Minmus on the node, no, we're behind it. Poop. All right, how much thrust do I need to cancel out this inclination? Only 14 seconds? I think we can do it. I mean, we are already here. Why not? Let's go for it. All right, fast forward. Matter of fact, we can go ahead and warp to the next maneuver. Valentina will float around. We'll cancel out this this ascending node here, or descending node rather, and then we will see if we feel comfortable enough to have enough fuel to come back. If not, we can at least get science from high above Kerbal. So this trip isn't going to be for nothing, for sure. All right. She can hold prograde and retrograde now that she's leveled up. Let's just keep our SAS on the maneuver node for now, as best we can. And cut. That should be close enough. Yeah, our descending node is 0.2, so now we can get out to Minmus if we so choose. The periapse would be the perfect time to fire because, you know, the periapse is our fastest point. So if we were to wait, we could use the Oberth effect to shoot out to Minmus without wasting fuel. But I'm just curious to see what it would take for us to get out there. Let's adjust our orbital time. We can adjust our speed. We don't need to be kicking in that fast. We almost got it here. Let's speed up, just microtransactions here. Right there. 44 seconds. I do not know if we have 44 seconds to burn. This may be a time we can hit up the moon. You know, I should have thought of that before I fired, because now we're 6 degrees off of the moon, but we might be able to make it work if we do a couple orbits. Let's see if we can catch it on the node. That would be in an ideal situation. All right, so using this maneuver node, we can right click and wait for the maneuvers to happen until we get there. And that's actually going to work well. Once we shoot off of the moon, our periapse will be 273. That's, you know what? That's not, You know what I'm gonna do? We'll save that for later. We will shoot from the periapse to get the most bang for our buck and go space high above Kerbin. Something like that. And see if we can get the high above Kerbin science, and then come back down. That should be fine. Let's not overreach too much. Once we get our fuel lines, once we get situated in a better place, be able to carry more fuel, you know, we've already achieved a tremendous amount so far. So we got to save something for the next episode, otherwise we'll max out the tech tree in a few episodes. All right, so plenty of electric charge still. We've escaped the atmosphere. We've orbited Kerbin. Now we just need to do our parachutes here. We also have another world first. A spacewalk in orbit for $24,000. Very nice for us. Okay, let's point to the maneuver node. Settle on 18 seconds or so, and then fire, see how much fuel we got. And then if we are running too low, we'll just cut the throttle and come back home. Oh, I missed my node. I'm a terrible person. Don't worry. That's not the last time that's going to happen in Kerbal Space Program, I guarantee. Let's see what this amount of fuel can get for us. You know what? We may have did it. No, we're going to be shy. I want to give myself enough fuel to get back down, so I'm going to cut it at 20. 20 liquid fuel, that is, even if we're short. All right, let's not waste all of our fuel. Let's see how high this gets us. This gets us out to 2 million. That may be high enough. Let's go ahead and warp here and see if we can get the high above Kerbin science. All right, here we go. Let us check the barometer. And that's high over Kerbin, 36 more science. Keep that one. Let's go to our thermometer. Log the temperature, 24 more science, high over Kerbin. Let's right click on our pod. Let's go a crew report. Okay, so we need to EVA, take all the data, and then store all the data. And now we can EVA report for 24 more science. Board, take a crew report for 15 more science, and we are all scienced out. It probably wouldn't be a bad idea for us to take the data out of these pods. just in case this section doesn't survive. And a matter of fact, it won't survive re-entry because we're going to dump it. So let's go down here, take the data from the thermometer. Let's take the data from the barometer. Let's board it. And then while we're at our apoapsis, we will bring our apoapsis down with a little bit of retrograde burn. And it doesn't take much. There we go, 13,000. We need a little bit more than that. 41,000 should do us, which is a 16 meter a second burn, microscopic in nature. Let's go ahead and do that. 3, 2, 1. SAS on. Let's just give it a little bit of throttle and cut it. SAS off. There we go, 40,000. We will re-enter the atmosphere, and I'm going to hold on to this stage so we can slow down once we get closer to time. Because remember, we don't have a heat shield, so we want to lessen our speed as much as we can. We can go SAS and actually tell Valentina to go retrograde, and then we can burn off all of this fuel. Get everything we can out of it, slow down as much as we can. We are going to come down, maybe a bit too aggressive. We want to sort of stay in the atmosphere as long as we can. Let's go prograde and fix what we did. 13, all right. Back to the map mode. Let's stay facing retrograde. And then we are going to decouple. There we go. Now we are at the mercy of physics. We're going to come into the atmosphere here. It's really, really dark, so I'll keep the pod against the galaxy. We should get our heating effects pretty soon. We'll see if we get these contracts on our way down. All right, we're heating up. We want to slow down and not come too far into the atmosphere here. The pod is stable enough to survive and not wobble back and forth. And we have our Mark 16 chute right here, just in case the heating is too much for this guy and it explodes these radials. We're definitely slowing down. We're not seeing any heat on the pod yet. We'll be coming down. Yeah, we've already slowed down a tremendous amount. There's our surface speed, 2,200 meters per second. We're still in the fringes of the atmosphere, so we're going to slow down definitely in time. And if we're lucky, we can land on another biome and get yet even more science. Yeah, we are slowing down a lot. I don't think heating will be an issue as we fall to the surface. We can see if we get these goals here, and then we need to test the parachute. So if we hit it right on the nose for this Mark 16 parachute, we can deploy it and see what happens. All right, let's time accelerate now that we are falling down to the surface. The pod is tipping over. At 10,000 meters, we will see if we are slow enough. I don't believe we are. We'll see this check mark here, but we are not slow enough, unfortunately. And we need to pop the chute, so we're too low on that one. So unfortunately, our test is not able to be done. So we'll just wait until 2,000 meters as per usual to pop the parachutes. And I'm looking at the radar altitude there, so we're not waiting all day. Pop the chutes. They deploy. We are slowing down. We have those radial parachutes here, and we've got the big parachute here. We slow down, and we are going to be landing on the land, which means perhaps we are in another biome. Now, unfortunately, the sun is not out, so we're better off watching our radar altitude. I could speed this up and cut these parachutes off, and just have that 16. But being overzealous can get you in trouble, let's say. Okay, here's 300 meters. Everything is looking fine. Coming to 200 meters, everything is still looking fine. And then at 100 meters, I will slow down to regular speed. Now we can go 50 meters. Why not? We're only moving at what, 3.1 meters a second? There we go. Regular time. We are about to land. And when we do, the first thing we will check is the crew report and see if we can get an EVA out of this thing. We are landed. Right click. Oh, we're going to have to take the data. We'll EVA, right click, do an EVA, and this is from the desert, so even more science. We'll keep that experiment. We will take all the data. We will store all the data, board, and then take our final crew report for 3 more science. Keep that one, and we are ready to recover. Let's see how our first orbital flight went, what we came back with. We're not going to come back with a whole lot of the spacecraft, but what we do have is a whole lot of science. Right here, 262 science from our excursion. We have recovered only $1,000 from our rocket, but look at the money that we had making there. And crew, she's advanced to level 1, gained 2 XP, and that is going to do it for me, ladies and gentlemen. A new day arises on the space program, and we're ready to do some science. In the next episode, I will unlock some of these trees, and we will shoot for Minmus. But that's going to do it for me, ladies and gentlemen. Like, share, and subscribe if you are so bold. And for Valentina Kerman, setting more world first, I will see you in the next Kerbal Space Program video. Take care.